To get started, I will be using a half cup of rice. This is around 3 ounces of long grain rice. I'm also going to be using 4 cups of hot water. Here I don't have the 4 full cups, but eventually I will be using 4 cups of hot water. I'm also going to be using 1 medium to large size cinnamon stick. I'm also going to be using 2 whole cloves. I know I have more than 2, but that's all I'll be using is 2 cloves. You can use more or less. I'm also going to be using 4 tablespoons of sugar. This is azúcar morena. It's just a natural sugar cane sugar, but you can use the white sugar if you have it. Next, I will also be using 1 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. You could also use whole milk. And before I forget, I will also be using a pinch of salt. Maybe a 1/4 teaspoon. You could add as much or as little as you like, but I usually stick with a 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, so my first step is to add all 4 cups of water into the pot, and I'm going to basically let the water come to a simmer and just let the cinnamon stick and clove steep. I'm going to add my cinnamon stick and clove into this infusing tea bag just to kind of help me not get all those little cinnamon bits and pieces from when I break it. You can definitely just toss it in the pot and strain it later. That works too. But this is what I'm doing. I'm just going to throw it into this bag. Here are my 2 cloves, and then break the cinnamon stick, add it to the bag, and again, let this steep and simmer for around 20 minutes. And I will preemptively say that this recipe is not a quick one. So if you're looking for a quick arroz con leche recipe, sorry guys, that's just not how I do things. My grandmother, she didn't really measure and time things, but it did take time because ultimately you want to get a bold flavor from the cinnamon stick and the clove. So she would make this, I guess it's a tea is what we're doing here. So she would make this concentrated tea, which is why you want to start with 4 cups of water, because by the time this boils and steeps and really gets going, you're going to end up with around 2 cups, 2 to 2.5 cups of this tea. So that's why you start with the 4 cups of water. Okay, so at this point, it has been 20 minutes. This is steeped. This is actually about half of what we started with as far as the water. I'm around 2.5 cups of water. So I'm going to take this tea bag out of the water and I'm going to add my rice. I will be adding, again, a half cup of long grain rice. I will put weighted measurements in the description below for those of you that panic because I'm not giving you ounces or grams or the metric system. I will put it in the description below. And again, I'm using long grain rice. I'm just going to give that a little mix, and then I'm just going to bring it up to a low simmer and let it cook for around 20 minutes uncovered. Now, if I cover it, if I bring it up to a simmer and cover it, most of the water is going to evaporate and you're going to end up with just a delicious fluffy rice. But I want some of that liquid to stay, so leaving it uncovered at a low simmer will still cook the rice, but it will still keep the liquid. So again, I'm just going to stick with the way my grandmother did it and just simmer it uncovered for around 20 minutes or until the rice is cooked and tender. Okay, and before I forget, I am going to add my pinch of salt, or around 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, so another 20 minutes, my rice is done. As you can see, it's still soupy, but the rice is tender. So now I'm going to add my sugar. And I start off with 3 tablespoons, but ultimately I'm going to use 4 tablespoons. I always do that. I always taste it and say, I need more, that extra tablespoon. So 4 tablespoons in. It's around 2 ounces of sugar. So once my sugar is dissolved, I just mixed it into the boiling rice or the simmering rice. Now I'm going to add my 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. And again, you could also use whole milk. Now, if you do use whole milk, make sure you bring it to room temperature. You don't want to add freezing cold or refrigerated milk into this, because then you'll significantly drop the heat of the whole pot. So just remember that. I'm going to give this a quick mix, and then I'm going to let this continue simmering for an additional 15 minutes. Now, you might be asking why I just didn't add the evaporated milk when I was cooking the rice. And you probably don't want to do that if you're using evaporated milk. Maybe whole milk because it has a higher water content, but with evaporated milk, it'll actually start burning quicker, and before you get the rice tender, you'll lose a lot of that liquid. So this is why I do it in 2 steps. You can give it a go and it might work for you, but again, I am a creature of habit, and sometimes when I just like the way a recipe goes, I just do that. And right now I did add that extra tablespoon of sugar. So again, I did add 4 complete tablespoons of sugar. By the way, I'm also going to add another cinnamon stick while this simmers. I don't know why I didn't add that when I actually cooked the rice. I could have done that. In hindsight, 2020. Hindsight is 2020. But anyways, just to get more of a cinnamon flavor that I like, I'm going to add another cinnamon stick. Okay, so it has been around 15 minutes. And my arroz con leche is still a very loose consistency, but don't worry. What I'm going to do is basically turn off the heat, cover it at this point, and just let it set for around 10 minutes, and then it'll be perfect. Okay, it has been around 10 minutes, and I'm ready to serve my delicious arroz con leche. By the way, I do like having more liquid than usual, because the longer this sets, the liquid is just going to soak in, or the rice grains are going to absorb most of this, and it will get a pudding-like texture. But I actually like it to be a little bit more soupy, so this is why I use the ratio of ingredients that I do. So in typical true abuela fashion, I am going to get a coffee cup and just serve a scoop of this delicious arroz con leche. It is exactly how I remember when I was a kid. She would just have all these coffee cups and spoons, and that's exactly where we would eat it out of. There was no fancy mug or bowl or anything. It was just a coffee cup, and it was perfect, especially in the cold winter months. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.